Well, welcome, everybody. I'm Dave Horner, and welcome to this special event celebrating the release of The Substance of Consciousness, a landmark volume in the philosophy of mind and a robust defense of a biblical understanding of the mind and the soul. Written by our own J.P. Moreland, who is here tonight, and his close friend and former student and our alumnus, Brandon Rickabaugh. Brandon is with us this week in the 5th annual Swindell Lectures in Philosophy, giving those. And we thought that while he was here, this would be a great opportunity to celebrate the significant achievement of this book. So Dr. Rickabaugh will be speaking in a minute. He is Associate Professor of Philosophy and Research Scholar of Philosophy of Technology and Culture at Palm Beach Atlantic University in Florida. Let's welcome Brandon Rickabaugh.
Yep, knew I was going to have to put it down a little bit. There we go. Well, good evening. Thank you for being here. Writing this book with JP has meant a great deal to me. It's something I felt like I certainly did not deserve. After I finished my dissertation and we had talked a lot, he said, "Hey, I got something I want to work with you on." And I said, "Oh, really?" And I thought it was going to be a paper. And he said, "I got this book. And it's a book I've always wanted to write. And it's a book I've been planning to write towards the end of my career. And I want you to do it with me." And that meant a great deal to me. And I've learned so much from working with him on this book. One of those is that books should get written faster than you think they ought to be. There was plenty of times where he lit the fire. And you got to get this done. You got to get this done. And I thought, that's how you write so many books, is you just hammer them out, hammer them out. But it was a pure joy. It was really a co-labor. We each had our own chapters that we worked on and then gave them to each other and tweaked things with each other and revised accordingly and then passed them back forth. And it was a great deal of fun. And I learned so much. Especially that I'll tell you this. What I learned is that when you come here to the program or you read one of his books, you think this guy is really brilliant. And this is true. But when I worked on this, and if any of you read this, I think this is the most technical thing that he's ever written. And I thought, wow, he was going at 50% with us. He really was going at 50% with us. If you've read it, the technical details are very profound. And it was a huge test to me as well. So I want to say just a couple things about the content of the book and how it came about. I believe JP's first book was co-authored with Norm Geisler. Is that right? On the abortion debate. And so at the beginning, his first book is about persons. Right? And if you track the sort of the trajectory of his career, it's constantly about persons. Jesus, the Father, the Spirit, and then each other. And the book is at a high level, argument for the soul or the embodied soul of the person. But what I always found a joy working with him was that it was what we always did. We prayed tons for this. We prayed over and over about the chapters, about the publisher, all of these, and some things aligned in ways that we can't share now, but were just really amazing, really amazing. But what we kept wanting to do was we want to make sure that we're grounded in honoring Christ in doing this well, because in the philosophy of mind, you might know that the soul is a spooky ghost that no one wants to be haunted by. But we know this is a haunted world, and we wanted to give it to him. So the book starts off in the first chapter with this argument about how substance dualism has not been given its due, really. And then we work through what are the assumptions behind that in the naturalism chapter that JP did. And then on into work on how do we lay down the really technical details of setting up an ontology of the soul and evaluating the nature of human persons and consciousness. And then we move on to talk about the deep unity of consciousness in chapters, and then move on to the soul in terms of its ability to move agents and things like that. So I just realized that there were some other people that were waiting to get in. So I just want to pause for just a moment to make sure, because that's always a interruption, right? So just a second. Sorry about that. Oh, did I read that right? Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. There we go. Okay. Oh yeah, please come on in, friends.
Right. Francis. Hey, I didn't know you were going to be here. Good to see you, man.
So I'm gonna yeah, come on in. So I'm gonna try to make sense of this. I notoriously bad. Oh, they keep coming. Do you know these people? Do these people actually know you? This is not an AA meeting. I'm not sure what all of these coming. One of the Flying Slezak brothers is here. Ken Slezak, yeah. So I am notoriously bad at keeping secrets. With my wife, especially, if I'm going to do a surprise for her, I can't. She'll ask, "What are you going to go do?" And then I'll just break down and be like, "I'm getting a gift for you. I'm doing some sort of thing for you." And we are good friends, JP, but I have been lying to you. So we thought this was going to be a celebration of the substance of consciousness, but it turns out that it's really a celebration of Dr. J.P. Moreland. Yes. No, I remember. So that's the. Yeah, I lied to you about that. I forgot. There was one other thing that I kept from you. I don't remember if I told you this or not. Academia is way too serious. And so I have this person who doesn't exist that I cite in my publications named Shecky LaFonzio. And in our book, Jay, I put under one of our thank yous, that dedication said thank you was to Shecky LaFonzio. He does not exist. Might be an abstract object, but doesn't exist. So yeah. So I'm gonna right where this is about loving on you, Jay, and how much you mean to me in doing this, and all of us here as well. And look at that guy. Look at that guy. I'm not going to tell you what Hope told me just 10 minutes ago about Jay's physique when he was much younger, but he was a beautiful man. And when you do something like this, you want to give, sort of a story about someone's trajectory. This, I think, is extremely difficult to explain how it is that someone starts off like that wild man and somehow moves on to that guy. That I do not know how to explain that. I do know how to explain that. That is very easy for me to explain. He's all about qualia, all about the experiences. Can't explain that though. Hope's gonna have to tell us that story. But you cleaned him up good.
It's a lot of work.
Oh. When I first became a Christian, which was a little later, in my life, I dropped out of high school, had a really hard upbringing and everything, and strange way that Jesus saved me. And in 2 weeks after that, I found myself in a church, and this person named J.P. Moreland came in and started to teach one of those. You remember those Tibbs courses in apologetics, and it was amazing. And he was asking the questions that I hadn't learned to articulate that, but he was giving answers to them. And it was we never got to know each other, but it was very profound for me. And for years I would read his books, and it ministered to me. And there was a point in my life where I needed Jesus in a much deeper and richer way. And this book, The Kingdom Triangle, comes out, and you got some weird stuff in there, man. But it's the weird stuff I needed, right? What is going on in my soul and my heart? Can the Spirit really change me? And then what's going on in the book of Acts? Can God still really heal me? And I grew up in Southern California, and so I knew about the Anaheim Vineyard, and it was a place you don't go to. It's just Simba, all of the land is yours except for this dark place. Don't go over there. But I was in deep need of inner healing, and I go there, and it was hard, and I can't remember if it was campus. Someone grabbed me and put me in the front. And I was like, this is the last place I want to be, in the front at a charismatic church. And I looked over, and Jay had a microphone on, and he was going to preach there. And I thought, wow, this is the Lord's way of easing me into something. This is a safe place. And I didn't know that he was going to church there. And so I'm leaving with my wife, and one of the pastors, Nigel Morris, grabbed me and introduced me to some others, and then Craig Lockwood. And Craig said, hey, would you like to come to our home group? And I said, oh, yeah, sure, okay. And then I show up there, and Hope and Jay are there. And I think, okay, wow, this is amazing. This is just like kind of a dream come true. And what happened is if you go to a Vineyard church, like, God actually does things. And they have this time of prayer. And there were different things that God had spoke to me that seemed very strange, words that I don't use to describe things. And then people in the room said that God was sharing those words with them. And tears just start flowing. And JP stands up and comes over and puts his shoulder on me and says, we got a brother who's hurting. We got a brother that's hurting, and we got to pray for him. And they prayed, and God did marvelous things from that point on, and lots of stories to be shared there. But one other thing I want to say here is I have been challenged in my mind greatly by Jay, but it was always this issue of being captivated by Christ and falling in love with the fact that God falls in love with me. And when I left to go on to do my PhD, well, no, let me back up. I did horrible on the what's the exam you called it? Jerry, yeah, I blocked it out. It's just tragic. I did so bad on it. And then I told JP, he didn't say, he was just very supportive. When I started getting into PhD programs, he finally told me, he's like, I was worried about you. I have seen higher scores from monkeys just working on my GRE score was so bad. I mean, that I got in was a miracle. But then before I left, Jay said to me, and I'm going to, study with Alex Prusen, very, very intimidating and brilliant people. But his advice to me was, don't lose your tender and receptive heart. And I could share all kinds of stories about that. But anybody knows me, that I've had some, like, the kind of success that you shouldn't have. And it has become what it is from prayer. It has become what it is from prayer. I am so grateful to you, Jay, for inviting me into your life. I mean, we got so close. You really are a brother. Well, I mean, you've been there for me. I've been there for you. It's been just beautiful. So I wanted to come and honor the book, but the book doesn't come apart from you. I don't feel like I come apart from you in many ways. Yeah, I'm going to start crying. I'm not going to do that. I don't know why I'm not supposed to do that. Oh, I know why I'm not supposed to do that, because we got to do other stuff. And it's not about me. But Jay, I want to say, what means so much to me is that you treat me like a brother. And you've let me come alongside you and play in the academic stuff, in the spirit stuff, in the inner healing stuff. And you are through and through someone who is deeply in love with Jesus. And that is never lost on you, and it's not been lost on me. I don't think there's anything else I can say that's better than that. So I'm just gonna leave it there. But thank you. Thank you, Jay.
Well, JP, you can see that this was all a subterfuge. Let's get metaphysical, baby. What we are actually doing here is to love on you in hope, and to honor you and show you just a little bit about how much we love and appreciate you. As the prison warden said to the new inmates who had just arrived at the prison, the world is a better place because you are here. JP, the world is a better place because you are here. It's a far better place for all of us in this room. And for many others who wanted to be here tonight but couldn't come. And for countless others that you and we don't know and you'll never meet till glory. Your shadow was a long one, zippy. And your fingerprints are on a whole lot of people, including all of us. So here's what's going to happen the rest of the evening. We're not going to have a long, involved program, as much as we know you'd love to sit through a very long program. If everybody here had a chance to speak publicly and talk about how they feel about you, we'd be here all night and probably all week. So your friends are here. And we want you and Hope to have a relaxed time to spend with them. So we won't have an open mic or anything, but a few of us, your fellow faculty members in the philosophy department, will each make some very brief remarks. And then I'll give you and Hope something to take home to read for later. And because I know that's all you do now is read. And we'll pray for you, and then we'll set you loose to enjoy some time with your friends.
Dave, I would especially like to see people that have come from a long way.
Yeah.
So please don't be hurt if I say get out of town. Yeah. Because I'd like to visit as many as I can. But those of you who came from a distance.
Yeah, so everybody else, back off. That's what he's trying to say. I have the gift of interpretation. So, Bill, you want to?
It's a privilege and a delight to participate in this evening honoring you, JP. JP and I go back quite a long way. We both have roots in Campus Crusade for Christ, both inspired by Bill Bright's challenge, come, help change the world. And J.P. Moreland's subsequent ministry through Talbot School of Theology is just an extension of that fundamental vision. Now, I'd never met J.P. when we were on staff, but I'd heard of him. And in around 1993, at an EPS conference. We met for the first time. And learning that we were moving back to the States from Belgium, JP invited me to begin teaching in the new program in philosophy at Talbot. And as soon as I saw the extraordinary work that God was doing here, I knew I had to be a part of this. And so for the next 25 years, I taught regularly on an annual basis here at Talbot. And as I did so, JP and I came to be close colleagues and personal friends. We've even dedicated books to one another. My book, Time and Eternity, carries the dedication to J.P. Moreland, colleague and friend, and then 1 Samuel 16:1, a mighty man of valor, and the Lord is with him. David's mighty men were an elite cohort of soldiers fiercely dedicated to the service of the king. And that's what J.P. Moreland is. He is a man of valor, sold out to the King of Kings, a warrior for the kingdom of God. And as co-combatants, we've been able to collaborate on a number of projects together, most notably, I think, Philosophical Foundations for a Christian Worldview, which is now in its second edition, multiple translations, and widely adopted as a textbook. And then the monumental volume, The Blackwell Companion to Natural Theology, which I think remains the gold standard for arguments for the existence of God. I also learned from JP. His article on Grunbaum on creation helped me to see that it's not enough for God to have a timeless will to create, but there also needed to be an exercise of causal power on God's part that would be plausibly dated at the very first moment of creation. Moreover, JP over the years has gone to bat for me repeatedly, again and again, most recently in helping me to obtain a contract at Wiley-Blackwell for my forthcoming systematic philosophical theology. But JP has been more than just a colleague, a great colleague to me. He's also been a dear friend. In fact, I think I can say that there is no other man with whom I feel so transparent to share my personal struggles and questions and to seek his wise counsel. So thank you, JP. And I'm sure I can speak for your other many co-authors like Scott and Brandon, Dave, when I say that I am so glad that when we're all dead and gone, our names will be forever linked. J.P. Morland and William Lane Craig.
You mean you didn't know this was your retirement dinner? Oh, what a treat to see all of you together. It's so fun to see a lot of the people who we've invested our lives in over the years. And I remember after some event that we had been to together, I remember we were talking together afterwards and sort of reflecting. I think it was after our 30th anniversary for our program. And we were just reflecting together on just how rich, God has blessed us with this. And I remember what we said to each other? Said, we have not wasted our lives. And just looking around this room and seeing all of you, it's just so fun to see all of you who's, have come through our program and gone on to do just incredible things that have surpassed most of us, if not all. And so I'm grateful, Jay, because, we go back to 1979 when we were students at Dallas Seminary and didn't know anything. Talk about a couple of young punks who thought way too much of themselves at the time. And then we taught together for several years at the International School of Theology under Crew's umbrella. And you left there before I did, and then you ended up in a local church, and then at Liberty, and I ended up here at Talbot. And I remember talking after I had gotten to Talbot, saying just what a wonderful place this was, and what a great community it was. First thing he says, "Think you can find me a job too?" And it turned out, providentially, the dean at the time had kind of grown weary of trying to integrate philosophy into the Talbot curriculum with the current existing philosophers on the campus. And so he jumped at the opportunity to recruit someone of your stature. And then we had the audacity to think that we could actually start a master's program. And I remember thinking at the start, I thought, if we get maybe 30, 40 students and, send maybe a dozen or so people onto PhD programs, and, maybe a small handful would get jobs in state universities, we count that as a huge win for the kingdom. And we've had over 200 of our grads going to doctoral programs. And at last count, we had about 85 of our grads who were teaching in distinctly non-Christian academic settings. I guess on a more personal note too, I think you've been other than my wife, you've been my biggest cheerleader and advocate. And I think that probably and all God's people said amen to that. I think I'm part of a well-populated fraternity on that. But, you were the one who first persuaded me that I had the chops to do a PhD. And you were the first to point out the program that turned out to be a perfect fit for what I wanted to do. And just coincidentally, I got a chance to spend a little bit of time with Dallas Willard too, as a result of that. You were the first one to persuade me that I actually could write things that are worth publishing, and helped open the door for some of the very first publications. And we co-authored a work together. And to this day, that was published almost 25 years ago. And to this day, at virtually every bioethics conference I attend or speak at, somebody makes reference to that book, even to this day. In fact, it happened just last summer when I was at the Center for Bioethics and Human Dignity's annual conference. A handful of people said that book changed a lot of the way I think about human persons.
And they specifically cited my chapter?
No. What they specifically said was that the clarity of the second half of the book was so much greater than the first. The clouds lifted in the second. And I remember during our days at this International School of Theology, we spent a lot of time together. I spent a lot of time in your home. And it wasn't until I had small children myself that I realized how intrusive that was on your family life.
Hey, we got babysitters from you guys.
But you were the one who persuaded me that my fears and hesitations about marrying, and about marrying specifically my wife, were unfounded. For which she is, I think, last time I checked, deeply grateful. But I think, like so many others in this room, we've been, your advocacy for us has been just incredibly liberating. And we would not have flourished like we had you not been walking with us, encouraging us, believing the best, and always, always, always having our back. And I will always be grateful for that. So I love you, brother.
While you and Scott were busy meeting, I was being born. So that's true, actually. Yeah, I'm going to tell the same stories, right? My wife just turned to me and said, it's the same for everyone. And I think that's true. So, Jay, in many ways, you've changed my life. I was a punk 20-year-old kid studying economics and with a crew movement, talking to people about Jesus, and they had questions I couldn't answer. And the books people gave me were written by you. And that's what led me to come be a student here. And then here, you were the first philosophy course I took. In fact, Sean McDowell's sitting right back there. I was thinking about Kyle Strobel, who's one of my best friends I met in that class. I remember Sean pointed out that you thought the clock was an hour ahead of where it was, and you said, just keep making contributions like that and you're going to go somewhere, kid, So I guarantee you Sean remembers that. Yeah, we had Shiloh asking about Wittgenstein all the time. And anyway, it was a wild day. But my first publication was with you. We ran into each other in Oxford. There are pictures of that somewhere, I think, in the church of whatever it is, sitting outside the Radcliffe Camera. Yeah, and you were reading SCOTUS like an idiot. There's actually photographic evidence of this, by the way. Like we have a picture and you can see the SCOTUS book in his hand. And as you know, that was a difficult period of my life, and encountering you there changed my life. And, we went and had a beer at the Eagle and Child and we talked about life. You said, you should email Scott and tell him you want to come back. And I did. And here I am, years later. During the time I was a student here, and since, I know you've been praying for me and for my wife and for my family. So you've been supporting me for more than 25 years and not just professionally. But I think the thing that stood out to me most, in all seriousness, is the way that you have suffered these past years. Because in my experience, you've been drawing nearer to Jesus. You become more gentle and kind and generous, but you haven't lost the JP-ness. I mean, you're still threatening to throw urine at people, for crying out loud. So you're still JP, but you're a JP who's been drawn near to Christ. And that's been a beautiful thing to watch. And it's been an encouragement to my heart. Even though I'm still not waving flags, I'm just sitting and standing when I'm told, But nevertheless, you've been a real witness to me, both professionally and also personally. And I think of you as a dear friend and a mentor. And I'm so grateful for you. My life is completely different because of you. I'm grateful. Yeah, I love you too, brother.
Hi, JP. My goats have, they sent their greetings. I'll drop them in front of your office tomorrow. I knew JP while I was still in Ethiopia as undergraduate student, and I have read his books, and especially Philosophical Foundation for Christian Worldview, and other books as well. Before even I met JP, I literally was captivated by what I've read. And I knew Biola, that coming to Biola was like, for me, like going to heaven, like, oh, it's just forget about it. It will never happen in my entire life. I'll never find myself at Biola. So, just I shrugged that, off. And God in his own ways, and very sophisticated in ways that I cannot explain, he dropped me here. Not only I was mentored by JP, and JP was a dear, dear brother to me. And he is not only an accomplished philosopher, he is a deeply committed pastor. He's a fearless evangelist. He's an amazing soldier for Christ. Every time I went to his office as a student, the first thing that came out of his mouth was, are you still with Jesus? Are you still loving Jesus? Always, constantly. It was incredible. And when I applied for PhD to go to United Kingdom, He was the one who recommended me to study under E.J. Lowe. And it's just incredible. And JP literally changed my life. Just people have said it enough, and I cannot really add to that. JP was a great guy, and we used to meet for breakfast, and I'm so deeply disappointed you just ignored me lately. So we will work through that.
You never paid.
You forgot, JP. You forgot. I paid. The last time we met, I paid. What do you mean?
The open money doesn't count.
Okay. JP used to tell me, now he got scared. When I was in his classes, like, you're not an American citizen. Shut up and listen and enjoy while others speak. And then I became an American citizen, and he was scared to death. Now, he can't say anything. He knows that, he will be in trouble. So, thank you so much, JP. I really, really love you so very much. And I wish you all the best. And I would like for you to be back to do what you've always, loved to do. And otherwise, I'm dropping my guards literally at the, in front of your office. So you need to be back. So I thank God for JP's life. I thank God for everything that he has done for the church and for countless people, hundreds and thousands of people around the world. JP is a blessing to the church. JP is a blessing to America. He is a golden philosopher of America and the golden philosopher of Jesus, the kingdom of God. And I really thank you for showing not only your knowledge to be, you care for people in an honest, genuine way. I've learned so much from you. I've been challenged in so many countless ways. Thank you for setting that example. I love you so very much, JP. I'd like to see you soon. Thank you.
He never asked me to write a book with him. There's time. Okay. I'm expecting an email. Right? I'll do the index. You do everything else. We'll be set. It's great to get to say a few words about JP. The road from working in campus ministry to becoming a philosopher is filled with potholes and traps. And around every bend, there are temptations to quit. And there are all kinds of people who would encourage you to quit. And there are also temptations to become the kind of philosopher that Jesus does not want us to become, to be filled with arrogance and a combative spirit. What we need is a good role model. And I certainly needed a role model when I was stumbling into philosophy after reading Francis Schaeffer and C.S. Lewis. And JP was this role model for me, even at a distance. He's committed to following Jesus faithfully. He's committed to the progress of the gospel, and he's committed to invest the time and energy to produce excellent work. He follows Jesus faithfully. We've seen this in his family, in his devotion to the Lord, and especially in these latter years in his response to intense suffering. He's committed to the progress of the gospel. A year or two ago in my office, he said, I want to fulfill the Great Commission. And that's what his work is about. This intense work is about paving the way, removing obstacles so that the simple gospel of redemption can be plausible and credible to an increasingly skeptical world. And of course, he's committed to investing the time and energy. I remember when the book Scaling the Secular City came out, and I was barely starting my master's degree at the University of Rhode Island. And I read it, one of my professors read it, and we were both struck with the rigor of the argument that we can do good philosophy of religion, do it excellently. But you're also a model of how to be a model. And you know, we're all running marathons in life, and there are people who cheer us on. And there are times, especially those who are pursuing things as obscure as a career in philosophy, where the people cheering you on in the sidelines aren't that loud, and there aren't that many of them. Sometimes there's only one. And when there's one, it looks a lot like J.P. Moreland. Thank you for your decades of encouragement and your faithful standing with all the people in your life. It matters for eternity. Love you.
No one would believe this for JP without photographic evidence. This many people? Great, thank you. I had a lot of stories to tell about JP. Some of them were true. But I decided instead to be more serious. So on this occasion of long overdue honoring you, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude for you, like others have said. I rejoice in our long friendship, dating back nearly 5 decades to Dallas Seminary, where I was a grader for JP and taught him everything he knows about the Bible. In those years, I've seen you as a trailblazer, like others have, and a guide in doing philosophy as a Christian, to coin a phrase. You demonstrated a warm heart for Jesus together with rigorous curiosity in the discipline and a deep love and care for students, colleagues, and family. 4 illustrative scenes come to my mind as I was thinking about this evening. First, that infamous philosophy class at Dallas Seminary with Craig Lixman, where you and I first argued. And we argued all semester. And other students only remember that JP and I argued in that class. But I began to suspect that I'd more than met my match. And over the years, I've moved much closer to him. But our arguments were always warm and friendly, seeking the truth. Second scene, when you were trying to convince me to apply for a position at Talbot, you called one day not to talk to me, but to talk to Barbie. You wanted to tell her what life in Southern California would be like, convince her that it wouldn't be so bad even leaving Rocky Mountain High. And you wanted to be sure she would be fully behind any decision that we made. You wanted us as a couple to come, and you cared about us as a couple. And the third scene, you spent much of a Saturday with me. You may remember that, arguing and answering questions or attempting to answer questions, serious questions that I had about a matter that we disagreed pretty deeply about. The time you took was precious, and we parted not agreeing, but again, deeply respectful, great friends. And that's what I appreciate about you. The fourth scene, or maybe it's a scene type, not a scene token. That's for you philosophers. I can only imagine what's been repeated often. You in prayer, often with hope by your side, asking the Lord for grace for healing, grace to endure another round of treatments. More than that, a grace to leave a legacy of loving Jesus, loving your family, loving your colleagues, students, loving your discipline. And that legacy, I believe, JP, you have achieved. We'll meet again one bright day, my brother, and maybe we can still argue.
Well, JP, so many different words come to mind as appropriate titles for you: pioneer, advocate, model, mentor, scholar, teacher, scaler of secular cities, unbelievably prolific writer, defender of the weak and vulnerable, passionate follower of Jesus, courageous servant and soldier of the gospel, devoted husband, loving father and grandfather, cheerleader, and to speak your love language in how you address the rest of us. Idiot! The word I want to reflect on for just a minute is, for myself, is friend. Been a close friend for a long time, and I love you. We actually met back in 1970 when you graduated from college and went on staff with Campus Crusade for Christ at the University of Colorado in Boulder. And your campus director happened to be my brother, Bob Horner. Bob really wanted to be here tonight, but he couldn't. He sends his love. I was a bratty junior high kid living 12 miles away who wanted to hang around with the cool Campus Crusade people and go skiing with them. So I'm sure we met somewhere in there, but we obviously weren't friends at the time. But I knew who you were, and I kept track of you as I heard about things you were doing. So a decade later, Greg Gansel and I were now on staff with Campus Crusade, and we dreamed together about how to engage the influential ideas of the culture. And we stumbled on philosophy as a way to do that. But who do you look to as a model and a mentor when you do that? And that's when you came back into our lives and began to play those roles for us. You were already doing what we wanted to do. And you became an incredibly generous teacher and guide and encourager and cheerleader and advocate through that whole process and up to the present moment. A few months ago, Debbie, my wife, was looking through some of the things that she had kept from our girls when we were little, and she came across a handwritten letter from you, JP, dated July 23rd, 1988. Dear Dave and Debbie, hope and I rejoice with you at the arrival of your new gift from God, Jessica Joy. What a beautiful name and what a lovely honor to have parents like you who love Christ. Dave, I continue to follow your ministry with real encouragement and interest. Please continue to keep me posted. Your brother, JP Morland. How many people do that? You always do that, JP. You always do that. Years later, you were instrumental in bringing me here to Biola. I just have to mention that Gary and I were working together in Boulder, and we brought you in to do a fundraiser for our ministry that we had, and you recruited Gary to come out. So the next year, we brought you in again, and you recruited me to come out. And I just remember, I said, JP, look at these mountains. I'm a, longtime Colorado boy. You said, our mountains can't beat your mountains, but our mountains can beat your ocean. That's pretty good. That was actually what I needed to hear. But you've been an incredible encourager and advocate all along the way for me since I've been here. You've been my friend. And finally, JP, I want to compliment you on your choice of women. Your amazing wife, Hope, your lovely daughters, Ashley and Allison, are here tonight. Hope, tonight is for you too. You've been an incredible partner with JP in so many ways. He loves you and depends on you, and he honors you when he talks to us. These last few years of physical struggle and emotional struggle have been very difficult, we know. And you have been a tireless partner and help, support and strength for this guy. And we want to honor you as well this evening. Well, now, JP and Hope, I would give you something to read. I have here well over 100 cards and letters from many, many friends all over the United States and Europe, just the ones we could manage to get a hold of and track down, expressing their love and appreciation for you. So when this evening is over, you can take this home and have some reading material to treasure in the weeks ahead. This is also being filmed tonight, so at some point you'll be able to relive this as well on film. And I'll give this to you now. And now I'd like us department members who just spoke to come over and pray for JP, but he is just going to insist on saying something. I can just tell right now. I told you not to let this guy. Okay.
Well, I'm going to make this brief. I just have two things to say. I'm going to be honest and say that I really don't know how to process tonight, especially those of you that came from a distance. And I'm seeing people that I just can't process it. It's Ross Inman, what are you doing here? Still owe me papers. But I want to say I am deeply, almost embarrassed. Honestly, I'm humbled by those of you who've come here from other places just to be here. Thank you. And those of you who are closer by, I would have expected you to come. No, I'm literally don't know how to process this, and I'm just so thankful for all of you. The second thing is you may be wondering about my health, and I can't answer anything about it because I don't know where it is. I mean, it's left. But I've been struggling with cancer for a good while. I've had 21 surgeries in 10 years. And this last 3 or 4 months have been kind of moving toward maybe the end. I don't know. But I've had an awful lot of operations and treatments and this, that, and the other, fighting bladder cancer and a cancer that's deep throughout the bones and spread throughout the area of my cheek. So I had radiation this summer because there's not a whole lot else they can do. And I had a MRI this Tuesday and a PET CT scan this Thursday down at UCI. And my radiation oncologist is going to gather that information. And I meet him next Wednesday, and he will give me an assessment of whether the radiation did anything. And if it pushed back on the cancer, then according to him, I could have like 4 to 5 years. If it didn't, it's going to be more like a year or maybe 2 years. Now, you always have to be careful when a doctor gives you a statement about longevity, because while it may be a decent rule of thumb, it's so complicated. There's so many medical factors that are hard to take in. So I've gotten my affairs in order. I've in the way that you should for your family. So I'm taking this seriously, but on the other hand, I don't know what this means. And so what I've had to learn to live to do is that old cliche, just live a day at a time. And I haven't been doing any philosophy. I haven't had the energy. I've been watching Oprah Winfrey reruns, and they just have been, they reminded me why I'm not a liberal, but or a constructivist anyway. But I'll find out what's going on next week. And I I had an experience that I'll close with that I think may be of use to you. Dallas Willard has a book that just came out called The Scandal of the Kingdom, which is his study of the parables of Jesus. And in that book, he says that there is there's a primary thing that God wants from all of you, for all of his children, that gratify him and honor him most. And that is that you are preoccupied throughout your days and weeks. You're preoccupied with being a disciple of his son and learning how to live in his kingdom according to its principles and its purposes and its values. And that's something that you hunger for. And part of that will be the Great Commission, but they all are subsumed under discipleship. And so I was in bed about 2 months ago, and I was praying, and we had Hope and I read that book together, and because we got a manuscript copy ahead of time, and so I was there in bed praying, and I was praying through things that were had to do with my sickness and my grandchildren and my family. If I wanted to be sure they were going to be okay, and something just came to me, and the thought just came to me: your primary value, the thing that you're preoccupied with more than anything else, is getting well. And that's what you want more than anything, is to get well. And I realized that that is not a disciple, that it's perfectly normal to want to get well. But what I began to realize is that what I want more is to finish well. And I'm not just saying that. It dawned on me that I really want to be a disciple of Jesus from whatever time I've got, and to enter more deeply into his kingdom through his word and various ways, and to finish well and not embarrass him and not embarrass myself. And I've already embarrassed my family, half the things I've said, but that's what I want. And I'd like to get well, but you know what? On the other hand, there's a part of me that would like to go because this place stinks in a lot of ways compared to the other side. And, it's been but I want to stay. And so I hope that encourages you. It's been a real encouragement to me because it's been a struggle. And I've had days that were pretty bad and days that were good and everything in between. And I haven't been a saint through this, I'll tell you that. Bill Roth back there, good buddy of mine, will tell you that. But I've recaptured what I was put here for to do at a deeper level, and that's just I've got a light step now, except I got neuropathy in my feet. But well, thank you for coming, and we're going to be here and. Oh, thank you. I'm so honored and embarrassed, actually.
Just stay here. We're going to pray for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's pray together. Lord, you are good. You are good. You have given good gifts. And for everyone in this room, Jay is a good gift in our life. You've given him good gifts. His life, his family, the opportunity to be who you created him to be. You gave him good gifts of your presence, your counsel, your wisdom. So we pray that you will shower him and Hope with more good gifts. Gifts of comfort, gifts of love, gifts of joy, and a taste of the end of the pilgrimage that all of us are on. And when he finally steps into your presence, I think all of us will hear you say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Strengthen, keep, encourage these dear, dear people. Strengthen Hope, strengthen the kids, the grandkids, and we ask that everyone will taste your goodness in and through the lives of these heroic friends. We pray in the matchless name of the one Savior, the one who touches and heals and embraces us and calls us to be his own. That name is Jesus. Amen.